It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. Hello to everybody. Hopefully you guys had a great holiday season. Happy New Year. I don't know when the last time we did a stream, I think was like way back in the beginning of December. So yeah, it's been a minute since I've been on here, but welcome everybody. How was everybody's New Year? Let me know in the chat. Watching on a couple different platforms. Just so you know, this is streaming on a couple different Facebook, couple different YouTubes, Instagram, X, LinkedIn. I think that's it. I think it doesn't benefit me what platform you watch this on. I will just, however, say that there's a much larger community than any other platform on YouTube. And there's actually two streams on YouTube. There's a vertical and a horizontal. If you're watching it and you see the weird black dots on the side, then you're probably watching the vertical on a horizontal screen. So keep that in mind. You can switch over to the other one however you please. Honestly, the complexity of all this streaming stuff is getting kind of silly. I miss the days of just live streaming and then everybody watched it in one format. I get it. You know, people want to watch on their phones and all that stuff, but so be it. So this is my Q&A live stream. Try to do these Monday evenings, work permitting. Obviously, life's been busy lately. But I like to go over a few questions because I get a lot of repetitive questions when I post videos. So I typically will use these live streams to address those. But then also I knock out other questions too. So I have a whole list of questions on a Google Keep thing over here that myself and my buddy Bill Russell kind of will put together from different YouTube comments and different stuff. But then I also try to address questions and answer stuff from the chat too. So if you have anything that you want me to cover or talk about, do me a favor, put it in all capital letters. It helps me to see it. If I miss it, keep reposting it until myself or one of the moderators tells you to stop. And last but not least, if I miss it altogether, feel free to shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So All kinds of stuff to talk about. It's like, honestly, it's been so long since I've done a stream. I can't remember what I wanted to talk about. Like, I have things on a list, but so much stuff has happened. So many service calls have happened that I haven't filmed. Still working on my super top secret project. If all goes well, it should be arriving this Friday, my big delivery. So let's see. It'll be fun unloading the truck, but we'll see how that goes. And yeah, so I'm kind of aiming to, I'm being very vague about what this super top secret project is. Some people are making guesses. Some people are making incorrect guesses. I've been leading a lot of people on thinking it's, you know, letting them think that it's what they think it is. It might not be that, who knows? But I'm adding something new to the channel. It's not changing the format of the channel. I'm still going to film content, service calls, but I'm just adding a new element to the channel that will allow me to film whatever I want and allow me to do whatever I want without having to worry about wasting customers' time or money or anything like that. So something cool, new coming. Stay tuned. Realistically, I don't expect to see content with my new project probably until after AHR. So I'm thinking late February, early March. But definitely going to be working on it, building it, all that good stuff. So stay tuned. Like I said, some new stuff coming. So as usual, want to get to a couple different things. I'm going to look at the different platforms here. Is 20 degrees superheat at the compressor ideal for low temp and medium temperature? Anthony, you want to reach out to each individual compressor manufacturer, okay? Remember that compressor superheat in a perfect world should trump evaporator superheat. Evaporator superheat, though, is going to be your box's evaporator TD is going to be very dependent on the evaporator superheat. But you obviously don't want to flood back to your compressor. So compressor superheat typically trumps evaporator superheat. That's why I say that. But evaporator superheat is very, very important. But you know, you want to make sure you have adequate cooling going back to your compressor. So you need to have the superheat low enough, but not too low to where you're flooding back to your compressor. So you want to reach out to each compressor manufacturer, but for the most part, it's not really going to change, I don't think, with low temp and medium temperature. I mean, really, they just have a minimum superheat that they want you to have, and they don't want it to be any lower. And obviously, you don't want it to be too high because then your compressor cooling can become a problem. So keep that in mind. But 20 degrees, is it? I mean, 20 degrees, honestly, I think that's a wee bit on the low side. Doesn't Copeland want it to be 25 minimum, I think? That's off the top of my head. You'll have to look at the compressor performance data. So the really cool thing is if you have the Copeland mobile app, now each other manufacturer is going to be a little bit different, but the Copeland mobile app, it links to their application engineering bulletins, and you can pull up the application engineering bulletin for whatever compressor you're working on, and it'll have all kinds of cool information. I'm actually still get excited to read application bulletins for compressors because there's so much information in those that it's like, oh, that's how that works, you know? And it's like right there. And you realize, like, I've been struggling with that for so long, and it's been right here in this installation manual from day one. The only downside is the application engineering bulletins for the compressors don't come with the compressors. So that's, a lot of people don't realize that that information is out there. So I'd highly suggest you look into the Copeland mobile app and explore that, put your model number in there and kind of explore around, and you can find all kinds of cool tech documents. You want to know about liquid injection and DTC valves? It's in the application engineering bulletins for those compressors. So lots of great information in those. Let's see what else we got going on here. Reading through. Okay, cool. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Reading through. What am I missing? Okay, lots of people. I need a haircut. Yeah, that's my my cool hair, and I forgot to put on a hat. So no, I'm getting one of those teenage haircuts where I look like a Q-tip. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. So I'm gonna go for one of those Q-tip things. There you go. Thanks for reminding me to put my hat on, because here in Southern California we wear hats indoors. All right. Reading through the chat, seeing what I'm missing. All right, cool. In that case, Chris's super secret surprise is a yep, nope. I will confirm it's not that 100% Freon. I can confirm that. I mean, yeah, no. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, no, definitely no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not what you think it is. So, all right. Oh, no, that's funny. All right. Starting a new company in May. What's the best lead generation company in Miami? Ooh, yeah, I'm not the person to ask about lead generation stuff, my friend. Not me. I will say that I thought I've heard that like lead generation is not as active or popular as social media advertising is these days, but here I am telling you to advertise on social media when honestly I think it's annoying when social media gives me HVAC company advertisements. I think that's the dumbest thing. They can't figure that out. But anyways, whatever. Yeah, I'm not a person with residential marketing or anything like that, so I couldn't even begin to tell you. Love the hats. You bought 2 and your kids stole them. Both work HVAC. Anthony Cook, thank you very much for the support, my friend. I really do appreciate that. These hats, I really did put a lot of effort into designing these. They've been same hat for a very long time. The cool thing is that it's a flex fit hat, right? Black underbill, but it's like this breathable mesh material, but it doesn't necessarily look like it. This one's a little bit dirty, but I mean, I wear these hats to death. But I purposely designed them with the HVACR acronym right here instead of a giant logo, so that way people could wear them to work and not violate uniform policies and stuff. If you're interested, they're available on my website, hvacrvideos.com. So do I still have the hooded hooded zip ups on my website? No, I don't. I mean, I think there might be like 1 or 2 3XLs available on the website, but that's it. Because those things we're not selling. And I'll be honest with you. So if you go to my website and there might still be a line item for the zip up hoodies. I don't know what my wife has set up on there, but we discounted those down to $25. That's not even breaking even. Like we were just finally, they were all sitting in inventory and we finally dropped them down to $25 a sweater. But like, that's not making any money. That's just closing them out because I didn't want to give them away for free. But basically that's covering shipping and that's about it. So yeah, because those things are expensive to ship. But anyways, yeah, what's on the website, hvacrvideos.com, is all that we have as far as hats, shirts, and beanies and all that stuff. And we're not doing a restock of zip up hoodies or t-shirts anytime soon. That's not the plan, at least, just because we just have to have too much inventory. We have to purchase so much in bulk to be able to get good pricing, but then they don't sell fast enough. So they just take up space in our shop or garage. Cause this is all just rooms in my house. Like for the longest time, they were in my front room of my house, but now they're in a garage room. And then like just so many rooms of merch in this house. So, but right on. All right, cool. So, okay, let's get through a couple different things. So I had a video a while back. I've had a couple videos on air balance, and someone, a couple questions came through about air balance. First and foremost, when it comes to air balance in commercial buildings and kitchens, I'm not a certified air balance technician. I know just enough to get into trouble. I have the basic understanding of a proper air balance, but in no way am I saying that the information that I would give would replace anything from like a certified air balance tech or anything like that. They certainly know a lot more about the book smart stuff than I do. I just know dumb logic. Okay. So the question says, when you have an air balance and it's complete and each unit, air conditioning unit they're referring, is running at different speeds, does it affect the positive and negative pressures after the air balance? And yes, it does. So understanding that my restaurants, they're not sophisticated restaurants. They don't have pressure sensors. They don't have variable speed makeup air units or anything like that. So when you're doing an air balance in one of my restaurants, things that you have to factor in is that exhaust fans are running. Are they running at a consistent speed or are they slowing down and speeding up? Makeup air units. Okay. Do we have an actual makeup air unit or are we just using outside air dampers on the ACs? So when the ACs slow down in speed, because all of our ACs now, for the most part, the bigger ones have a minimum of 2-speed blower motors, right? So first stage goes on low speed. When second stage kicks on, it goes to high speed, right? It's to save energy because in theory, you're moving too much air, all that good stuff, right? So when you slow down the blowers and you're relying on the outside air dampers or the economizers to bring in outside air, is the air balance going to be affected? And yes, it is. Absolutely. When the indoor blower motor slows down to low speed and the economizers or the outside air damper is open at a fixed position, well, when that blower motor spins slower, it's no longer pulling in as much outside air as it was when it was spinning faster. Right. So depending on the way the building's set up, depending on the way that the air conditioner is set up, if it has a smarter economizer assembly with an outside air damper, the economizer might have different positions for low speed and high speed indoor blower motors. Right. But even still, it's not going to be perfect, right? So in a perfect world, you've got pressure sensors all throughout the building. Whenever the building goes positive, it, adjusts the airflows and dampers and everything appropriately. And then the same thing whenever the building goes negative, it adjusts the airflows. But our buildings, for the most part, aren't going to get that complicated. So you're going to have to find a happy medium. You're going to find pretty darn good. But yeah, when you have one AC on high speed, one AC on low speed, then you have an exhaust fan running on high speed and then another one running on low speed because of a variable hood system or something, yeah, the air balance is going to be way out of whack. And it's very difficult to fine tune those buildings. You really do have to find a happy medium. You also have to understand that it may not be as drastic as some may think, but you are going to get different atmospheric pressure conditions. You're going to get different pressure conditions in general because of outside temperatures and different things like that. So that's going to affect the way the air moves throughout the building when it's really cold outside versus when it's really hot outside. So there's a lot of variables that go into play. Another thing to think about too is that buildings that have ducted returns, right? Which almost every building out there has a ducted return. If you're using the air conditioner as a makeup air unit, meaning that the air conditioner was designed with enough extra capacity to bring in X number of CFMs of outside air all day long, right? So it's designed appropriately. That outside air damper is going to stay at a minimum position, and then it might open for free cooling or whatever you want to say it, right? But that adds a whole nother complexity into it. But if you have a ducted return, a good majority of the time, they're going to be relying on barometric pressure relief. So as the building pressurizes, the theory is that the return air plenum is going to pressurize, and it's going to open up a set of barometric dampers on the AC, gravity dampers, okay? And they're going to open up based on the building pressures and relieve the excess building pressures. Sometimes, depending on how tight a building is, you can stand by the barometric pressure dampers and someone opens the front door of the building, and when it shuts, you can see the dampers pop open, right? Okay, so the point that I'm making is that a good majority of the time, our ductwork is undersized for the return and the supply, and that drastically affects barometric pressure relief in the buildings. Now, this is just my dumb logic. I've just seen it too many times that when you have undersized returns with restrictive return air grills, that air has a hard time making it up through the AC. And what'll tend to happen in some of those buildings is when the building were overpressurized for some reason, the doors will blow open. And yet the barometric pressure relief for the building, the doors will blow open, right? Because it's overpressurized, but the barometric pressure relief on the roof won't open. It might be gummed up with grease, or it could just simply be because you have dirty return grills, restrictive duct work. I mean, there's so many different things that go into air balance and understanding how to balance these buildings out. Now, in a perfect world, you have what do you want to call them? Powered exhaust fans on the return air. So that way it's going to draw that air out of the building via a motor. That does exist. There's some buildings that have those on them, but those get even more complex when you're trying to do air balance too, because that adds more complexity to it too. So, air balance is definitely an interesting thing. And I'd love, to be honest with you, to go through some sort of a certification program to understand more about the complexities of commercial air balance. It sounds interesting, but there's so many things that I want to learn, but I'm like so tied down by all my current obligations with videos and, my normal refrigeration business and all that stuff. It's like, it's so hard for me to take time to go to an actual class or something and even learn things. But those are first world problems. Don't pity me or anything like that. So a supermarket require economizers for free cooling, or is it humidification control prohibit the economizer from free cooling? Will a supermarket ever require economizers for free cooling? Well, supermarkets, a good majority of the time, will have dedicated dehumidification units that will bring in so much outside air depending on the climate and the ambient and stuff. So supermarkets tend to be a lot more concerned with energy efficiency because their profit margins are a lot lower than people would expect them to be. So they're super concerned with energy efficiency and saving energy. So they usually have pretty decent stuff, but I'm sure there's some supermarket guys in the comments that may comment otherwise. That was from Instagram. So what pays better, residential or commercial? This is from Instagram. It really depends. I mean, you can make very good money in residential. You can make very good money in commercial. In residential, to make the top dollar money, you're typically going to need to be a business owner or a big salesman. You're going to have to be able to sell, sell, sell. You're going to have to learn to sell death to grandmas. You're going to have to learn to scare grandparents. I mean, to be these crazy salesmen. I'm kind of being sarcastic there because there is honest, reputable residential companies that have residential salesmen that are reputable and honest, that aren't necessarily selling death to grandma. Okay. I was being a little sarcastic there and over exaggerating, but I mean, you tend to see that a little bit more on the residential market. In the commercial market, the sky's the limit, depending on where you want to go. I mean, if you're young and you really, really are hungry to make some money, get into the supermarket side, just be ready to work. You know, and there's all different aspects of the industry. So it's definitely something worth looking into getting into for sure. So barometric dampers won't open till the building gets positively pressurized greater than the return static air pressure. That's true. Yep, absolutely. All right. Reading through the chat right now. All right. So reading through, seeing what I'm missing in here. What fridges are good for restaurants? At a minimum, I would say buy a true refrigerator for like a prep table. At a minimum, those are the lowest quality that I would suggest to a customer to buy. I mean, some people love them, but do not buy the cheap Korean refrigerators. They're throwaway refrigerators and they're just hurting the market. Ironically, I remember a day coming up in the industry when True Manufacturing was the cheapest refrigerator out there, and they were junk compared to a Trolson or a Hobart or a Kyrac refrigerator. But True, being the cheapest, built their reputation because they were selling. But then you had the cheap Korean manufacturers that came in and undercut True and started copying their designs. And they basically have lowered the playing field and made True one of the higher end refrigerators out there, in my opinion, as opposed to some of the cheaper Korean manufacturers that just in my opinion are complete throwaway refrigerators. Another decent refrigerator out there would be like a Delafield, but those tend to be rather expensive for what a basic restaurant customer wants to purchase. But my personal preference would be a minimum of True refrigerators for your prep tables and stuff. But you also have to understand that a lot of people don't take into consideration that refrigerators are meant to operate in 80-degree or below ambient conditions, okay? And 80 degrees, that means air going into the condenser. That's not necessarily building air. So if you have the refrigerator pushed up against the wall and it's not getting very good air circulation to the return air of the condenser, then that 80 degrees is going to be met very quickly because it might recycle discharge air, or it might have a hard time. So most people don't put enough thought into the design of their kitchens as opposed to, you know, what brand refrigerator. I mean, you know, you can make one of the cheaper refrigerators last a while if you give it good conditions to work in, but I still wouldn't suggest buying anything cheaper than a True refrigerator, to be honest with you. So let's see what else we got going on in the chat here, see what I'm missing. You finally know you will be at AHR and will be at the Honeywell booth for part of the time. Right on, Will. I'm going to be, you know, spending a lot of time at the Parker Sporland booth. I'm also looking for any of my close friends. I'm going to be doing some live stream stuff from the Parker Sporland booth. I'd totally be interested in some of you. Will, if you're interested, if you have time. Jason, if you're interested, coming by the Sporland booth, maybe we can have a conversation on camera or something like that. Definitely message me. Let's talk. But yeah, I'll be there too. Let's see. Alfredo Ramirez is saying, you might be your service area, but I'm broadcast is cutting out really bad. Anybody else in the chat? Is the broadcast lagging or is it just Jose's area? I'm going to do a internet speed test. I tested earlier and I had really good service. I'm 700 down right now, but the upload is what matters. I'm 33 megabits per second, upload 35. That should be more than enough. So I believe it's your area, my friend. I really do. Yeah, Will, let me know, man. I'm sure we can figure something out. Okay. All right, cool. Let's see. You know, I don't do much about fire alarm systems like Firelight, FCI, et cetera, but how do duct detectors work for fire alarm panels and how does it shut off the ACs? So typically fire alarm panels, okay, so I'm not a fire alarm expert. Okay. Let me preface that right there. My experience working with fire alarm technicians, a good majority of the panels out there have standalone duct detectors that they just monitor. Now, I know that there's fully integrated systems. I know that Siemens makes one, for example, that you have to use the Siemens duct detector with their fire alarm panel because it's fully communicating. There's all kinds of goofy stuff. So it really depends on the type of system you have. But for the most part, most of the systems that I work with, it's a standalone detector that has some sort of a end-of-line resistor, a poppet, or something that helps the panel to identify it, depending on how they run the circuit to monitor the detectors. The detectors are typically wired to the AC, and then the fire alarm company is usually running a 2-wire circuit to the AC, and they've got an end-of-line resistor jumped across that, and they're just monitoring for a closed condition or for the resistor to disappear, depending on how the system's wired, if it's wired for a trouble circuit. And then usually on the newer systems, the duct detector itself is going to have a separate set of dry contacts that we're going to wire into an emergency stop feature within the AC. So if the duct detector trips, emergency stop is immediately sent to the AC and it powers down within 5 to 10 seconds. So that's how the systems that I work with. So hopefully that answers your question. If it didn't, feel free to shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So, and if I messed anything up, definitely tell me in the chat. What is my methodology when it comes to troubleshooting? First, step back and observe. Step back and observe and listen to your senses and just listen to the customer. I'm going to try to tell you guys a story without revealing too many details because this is going to be made into a video and it's an ongoing thing. If any of you guys watch the HVAC Overtime Show, it's a show I do with my friends. I kind of tease this a little bit on the Overtime Show, saying that my video this last Sunday that was supposed to post, I have a story about that too, didn't post, right? I ended up pulling that video down because I planned on it. So I went out on a service call. Customer said they had a broken conduit on the roof. I looked at the conduit and I said, I can definitely fix that. It was after the breaker panel, after the conduit went onto the roof. They had some roofers up there doing some roofing work. They busted one of the 1/2-inch EMT conduits. They broke it or something trying to take it apart. A wire shorted. They put some wire nuts on the wire. Customer said, hey, can you fix that? I said, yeah, I can, but I need to come back in the morning because I'd been at this building before and I've ran into some shady stuff. So I kind of assume that their electrical is going to be messed up. I don't want to start in that in the middle of the day. Okay. Go back out there the next morning. Super easy. Cut the conduit back from the broken spot, put a box there, new EMTs, watertight EMT connectors, go to seal tight. It had multiple power switches for the exhaust fan. Okay, why, I don't know. Eliminated one of the power switches, used the main one. But when we were wiring in the exhaust fan, and this is where I'm not going to go too deep into this, we found a major problem with the electrical. The previous company had wired the fan for 120 volts when it had a 208 single phase, actually 230 volt single phase circuit with a dedicated breaker coming from the panel, but they were only using one leg, but they had no neutral. They were running the neutral to ground, which very, very dangerous, can be a problem. So that's why I don't get involved with those. I trust my senses, right? So thinking about this customer, I'd done a little bit of work there before, found some really weird things. Like, for instance, I made a video about this customer. It's a new customer, but they called saying exhaust fan wasn't, walk-in keeps icing up. I found the evaporator fan motors set on low speed when they're 2-speed motors. Why are these set on low speed? And I was told because the previous contractor said when they were on high speed, they were too loud. It's like, what? No, this coil is designed for high speed. Low speed is an energy efficiency thing, but at a minimum, they need to be running at high speed, not low speed all the time. Anyways, this is the kind of stuff I'm finding there, right? So then I find this exhaust fan that was wired for 120 volts with one leg of hot from a 208 volt service, but then the neutral going to ground. I was like, I can't leave it like this. We have two options. We take your 230 volt service that you have going. The motor was capable of being wired as 230 single phase. So I was like, I can wire it for 230, but I'm a little reluctant to do that because this motor has been running for 10 years at 120, and I don't like rewiring voltage on motors 10 years later, so customer chose, instead of having the electrician come out and pull a new neutral to the panel, they said, just go ahead and wire it for 230. Let's see what happens. We did. I made a video and I was going to post it on Sunday. But they called me on Saturday and said the exhaust fan stopped working. It'd been about a week. So I went back out today, and that's where the story is going to stop, because you guys can see what I find when I add that, because I pulled the clip back. I was like, well, if I'm going to be going back, I'm going to film it and add to the video. So pulled that video down. And then long story short, my internet went down. I had another video uploading. I was trying to upload it from my car as I was driving down the road. It was stupid. Anyways, long story. But so the exhaust fan video, I don't know when that's going to be released. Tentatively, I'm going to go back and fix it tomorrow. I got what I need. And yeah, so stay tuned for the video for that one. But when it comes to a service call, you step back, you listen to the customer, you think about it, you observe, and then you start coming up with conclusions, right? You're there to fix the problem, but then you need to figure out why the problem happened. Are you just looking at a symptom, or is this the problem, right? Because sometimes you could think the symptom is the problem when in fact the symptom is just a symptom of a bigger issue, right? So, so for instance, that exhaust fan thing, something that's just hurting my head and making my stomach turn is that the customer told me that they just had the main electrical panel for the building, in their words, blow up, and they had to have it all replaced on a Saturday. And I'm like, why did the panel blow up? He's like, well, I don't know. And then I find these weird electrical issues, and I'm like, yeah, scary. You know, like that's kind of odd. Makes me wonder, you know? So it's like, what's going on in this building? And this is a really old building that's had people there just kind of making things work for 20 years, you know? And it's like, yeah, that's a little difficult to diagnose. And so that makes it hard for a service technician that may be not experienced. Even for an experienced tech, sometimes you walk in and you're like, oh, it has a bad motor. Well, does it? Is that the only thing that's wrong, or is there more wrong? You know, and it just tends to be a problem. But so my advice when running a service call is take your time and just pay attention, look, listen, and observe. Okay. Feel free to shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com, if you need some more guidance on that. Let's see. You were troubleshooting a Prodigy board. This is from Instagram, on a Linux RTU, which has a code of M2 not responding. You tried resetting the board and it still won't go away. You appreciate it. Cheers from Canada. Okay. So the M2 not responding, I don't know the exact one, but I have seen that many times. What I would start doing, obviously resetting the power to the unit. Yeah, definitely. Maybe update the firmware to the Prodigy controller if it'll accept it. Also, make sure that the CR2032 battery, I think is what it is, behind the Prodigy display is good. That's assuming it's Prodigy 1. Prodigy 1 is the white cover. Prodigy 2 is the black cover. So if it's Prodigy 2, it doesn't have that CR32 battery, I don't think. I don't think it does, or maybe it still does, but make sure that's good too. Make sure your transformers are tapped right. Make sure all your connections are good. Update the firmware. If that doesn't fix it and you're still getting the M2 not responding, then yeah, you might need to call the manufacturer and you might have a board issue. But that's where I would start checking voltage, checking connections, checking batteries, updating the firmware, and then going from there. All right, let's see what else we got going in here. How valuable are techs who know VAV programming and building animation, knowing how to troubleshoot systems? So you're coming from being a controls technician that's designing systems and knows how to design the controls side of it and operate them, and you want to get into troubleshooting systems. I mean, any knowledge is better than no knowledge, but I would say that you need to have understanding of motors and, you know, mechanical understanding for the troubleshooting side too. But you're definitely going to have a leg up coming from the controls side, understanding, designing, you know, systems. You're going to have a leg up as opposed to someone that doesn't have any experience, but you're still going to have a learning curve because you got to learn the mechanical side. Now, if you have a deep understanding of the mechanical side too, then yeah, you're going to do great. But I firmly believe, in all honesty, that every controls only technician out there needs to have a strong mechanical HVACR background. Just like every engineer that's designing HVAC systems needs to have a strong understanding of repairing and servicing HVAC systems too, because that all goes hand in hand. So when you're designing control systems, you know, like for instance, I'm going to give you an example. This was a controls technician for a building a long time ago that, long story short, it was a restaurant. I don't service them anymore, but they had a whole controls package at this restaurant. They had a controls company come in and set everything up. And this particular restaurant uses the ACs as part of their air balance. And it was like pulling teeth to get the controls people to understand that in my buildings, with the way that they're set up, the indoor fans on the AC units need to run 24 hours a day. Now, this was a long time ago, and it was like pulling teeth. I realized it was probably just one company, but because of air balance reasons, because we're relying on that outside air at a minimum position to always be coming in through the ACs to aid in the building balance, the indoor fans need to be running from 7 a.m. when the restaurant enters the building and turns on the exhaust fans until closing. Every AC's indoor blower motor needs to be running. So we would have to pull teeth to explain to the controls companies. And again, I'm not saying every controls technician doesn't understand this. I'm saying this particular one didn't understand it because they were like, no, we're here to save energy. You don't want the fans running. It's like, yes, you do. Energy goes out the door when it comes to building balance. Sorry. You know, like silliness. But anyways, that's a whole thing. So just need to have a basic understanding. Hopefully I didn't go off on too much of a tangent and I kind of understand what you wanted. Hello, Roth, 3632 from Germany. Very nice to see you in the chat, my friend. What should you wear for an HVAC interview? Okay, wear like comfortable clothes that look professional. You don't need to. So every interview is different, but I'm not looking for a guy to come in a suit and tie to an HVAC interview. Okay, you're blue collar. Come in decent clothes. Don't come in shorts. Don't come in a tank top. Come in a nice shirt, a polo, maybe a work shirt, something like that. Jeans, some work pants, and some boots. Show them that you're ready to work. That would be my advice to go into an HVAC interview. Now, are you going into management? And, you know, maybe you need to dress a little different going into a management interview. But if you're going in to become a service tech, don't get dressed up in a suit and tie and wear dress clothes. Interestingly enough, I had a gentleman that showed up to an HVAC interview, actually a good friend of mine. Now, I would consider him to be a good friend. He doesn't work for me anymore because he started his own company. He's doing great, right? Great dude. There was no hard feelings when he left my company. But when he came to the interview, he was wearing dress shoes and some slacks and some other things. And like the interview went so well that I was like, hey, man, do you want to go on a ride along right now? And he's like, yeah, let's go. And he went on a ride along in dress shoes and slacks and like, and so, you know, wear stuff that you can work in. That would be my advice to an HVAC interview. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on here. The best advice I can give you though, is absolutely do not drive your existing service company's work vehicle to a job interview for another service company and park it around the corner thinking that you're hiding it, because when I find out, I'm not going to hire you. Plain and simple. When you drive another service company's van to my interview, even if you're leaving that service company, that shows me that you have no respect, absolutely no respect for the company you're coming from and the company that you're going to. So you do not drive your work vehicle from your existing company to your interview for your new company. That's just a dick move. Pardon my French, but it really is. Okay. Fight me on that one. Sorry if I offended anybody. So, all right, let's see what else. Will Speed says he wears jackets and dressy clothes a lot now, but Will Speed is in the fancier side of the industry. Okay, you're hoity-toity now, right, Will? All right, best books to learn commercial refrigeration. Right here, my friend. Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Mr. Dick Wers. That is going to be an entry-level fundamentals book for commercial refrigeration. Now, of course, after this, you can get into things like the rack manual, which is the standard refrigeration service manual. And then you get into installation manuals and stuff for each individual refrigeration equipment, manufacturer's manuals. That's going to really, really help you understand a lot more in there. So, all right. Is it okay to DoorDash with your service van? Yeah. So if you listen to the HVAC Overtime show, you will know what Nasty over there is referencing, because a friend of mine, an unnamed friend, he worked for a service company and he was in kind of a semi-management position, and they had this guy that worked for them that was just a little off, and he called in sick. But for some reason, they looked at his GPS and they noticed that his van was still driving around, and they couldn't figure it out. So they figured his van was stolen because he wasn't answering the phone. So the service manager and my friend went off on a joyride to go find this van, and they were tracking it while on the phone with the police. And long story short, the technician called in sick so he could deliver like Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever. And he was doing it in his work van, which yeah, don't do that. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat right now. I have excellent audio. Well, thank you. I'm glad it's actually working today, because apparently there was a bunch of streams that I didn't know that it was using my iPhone camera, because that's what I use to film, and it wasn't using the fancy microphone I have right here for the audio, and I didn't know. So if you guys ever hear bad audio or anything, let me know ahead of time, so that way I can fix it and not go like 5 streams with bad audio. You were also wondering, because you have a home firelight system and you have it on the alarm relay and wanted to make it shut off your AC, and was just wondering if you could do that. Yeah, if there's a will, there's a way. You can 100% do that. If you have an open dry contact on your alarm system that will trigger when it goes into alarm, you can easily wire that into your home HVAC system. Sure, you can. Yeah, you'd have to run some control wiring though. On your home system, you're probably just going to have to disconnect R, would be my guess. You can interrupt the power to the transformer. You don't want it to be high voltage, but yeah, if you have a set of dry contacts on your alarm panel, you can certainly wire it in to break a contact. You would want it to break contact though, because most residential systems aren't going to have an emergency stop feature. Although some of the newer ones that are A2L, they might have an emergency stop feature, but I don't know how that works. You'd have to look into the schematics, but it's perfectly possible for someone who wanted to do it. So, let's see. Jason Johnson says his 9 to 5 pays good enough that he doesn't want extra work. That's the same for me, my friend. So, best online courses for commercial kitchen equipment, asking for a friend. Best online resources for commercial kitchen equipment. Whew. I don't know if there's really a good online resource for commercial kitchen equipment. I really don't know. I mean, I can name a bunch out there, but I'm not going to stand behind any of them. For commercial kitchen equipment. Yeah, I don't really have an answer for that. Maybe someone in the chat can say it, but don't say one of these people that really doesn't know what they're doing. So, all right. Let's see. You don't mind GPS, but you wouldn't work with cameras in your van. Here's my thing, Brandon. Look, I don't care about cameras. I don't care about GPSs. You know, as an owner, I have another insight to things. And what a lot of people don't understand is it comes down to insurance. Okay. The bigger you are, the more likely you are for your insurance companies to require to be able to get the pricing that works for your company, that you have cameras, fast motion sensors, and, you know, all that crap in your van. Okay. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised with the way that insurance companies are getting these days that they don't start requiring it of smaller companies too. I personally don't care about cameras. I don't care if there was a camera pointing at me. I can promise you that I wouldn't be polite because I'd be picking my nose all day. But I mean, you know, who cares? Like, the cameras don't bother me. I know they bother some people, and I'm not trying to say your frustrations aren't worthy or anything like that. It's just, I just don't understand it because cameras have never bothered me. And in all honesty, I really want cameras just for the reason that I see so many idiots driving on the road, and every time there's an accident, I don't know if you realize, but every time you're in a commercial vehicle and you're involved in an accident, it's a lawsuit. Instantly, a lawsuit. Personal injury lawyers are like, oh, there's a commercial company involved, we're going to sue them. Instantly. It doesn't even matter if it's your fault. There's going to be a lawsuit. Your van was overloaded. You couldn't stop fast in time. Like something. They're going to come up with a reason. So keep that in mind. All right. You love cameras. They catch you picking your nose. I mean, they would literally, I would get warnings. Why are you picking your nose and eating it? I don't know. I didn't mean to. It's just that thing that I don't even think about doing. Sorry. I'm a 4-year-old, you know, whatever. Let's see. Anthony, you said you love the videos. You wish there was more videos and less editing or whatever makes it easier for me. Yeah, it's my sanity. You know that I used to do 3 videos a week when I first started my YouTube channel. For the first 2 years, it was probably 3 videos a week, but the editing was a lot easier. Now the videos have gotten longer. The editing's more difficult, and I'm much more careful about what I put out there because it's getting harder and harder to film in the restaurants while still concealing the customers' locations and things like that. But yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is sharing my knowledge. I wish that I could do it on a more frequent level, but I obviously have to run a refrigeration business too. So, you know, this super top secret project I'm kind of teasing all the time is going to be like an entry into an idea of of more training style content and stuff too for the future. Not replacing anything, but like I would love to be able to do like trainings and things like that someday if I ever got a facility or something like that. So there's a trouble supervisory and an alarm, but you think the relays are for triggering other panels, but you were also wondering what house AC unit will work with. But if you could tell me, you're thankful. So this is about someone's alarm question for wiring their house HVAC system into their alarm panel. Well, more than likely, you're not going to use the trouble contact. You're probably, the alarm is probably going to close. It's not going to open. You should have, which ones do you have dry contacts for? I don't know. It depends on how it's wired. It might be the supervisory. It just depends. Depends on how it's wired and if you have a normally open and a normally closed. So anyways, feel free to shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. We might be able to talk some more. Let's see what else. Respect from Nevada. Thanks so much, William Butler. Appreciate it, my friend. They said your 4-year-old system has a legal refrigerant and you don't have 76 UV lights in your system. Jason Johnson said that. Man, that sucks. Yeah. Wait until everybody out there starts trying to sell everybody a new air conditioner because they need A2L refrigerants and it's against the law to use that 410A refrigerant anymore. You can still fix them all day long. So yeah, let's see what else we got going on in the chat right now. Okay, so I'm going to get to a couple more questions that I have. So what do we do with our old refrigerants? How many of you guys have a garage full of like legacy refrigerants that you don't use anymore? I know that some of you might be technicians. Maybe you don't have as much as like a business owner might, but man, I've got some refrigerants in the garage that I probably just need to take to the supply house. 408A, 409A, R12, R502, MP39, MP66, Hot Shot. I've got all these different refrigerants that we don't use anymore. And I'm like, oh man, you know, you think like I should save that, but then it's like, why? Why do I still have the R12 replacements when I have some R12? I need to throw away the R12 replacements. Probably just take them into the supply house, pay to have them, you know, cleaned and disposed of properly. But do you guys have a bunch of old like HVAC stuff in your garage, refrigerants and different things like that? Like that you just think, oh yeah, maybe someday I'll use that. And then your wife's like, why do you have these piles of crap? Yes, that is 100% free on Leon. The problem is that no one is teaching young guys to fix, only to sell. Yes, that is true because the profit margins on new equipment is much easier and there's less liability on new equipment versus repairing, which doesn't make as much money. You know, customers tend to get frustrated. So on the residential side, yeah, everybody's out there to sell new systems. And it's honestly, it's by design. Like, and in all honesty, a lot of the customers don't want to fix things because look, let's put it this way. You go out to a 15-year-old HVAC system, you know, it's an older grandma and grandpa, you know, and it has a bad blower motor. Yeah, you got a bad blower motor, but when I pull that blower motor, we need to look at your evaporator coil to make sure it's clean and we need to make sure your ductwork is right. Right. So what happens if the blower motor failed because the ductwork's messed up? And little do you know that blower motor's only, you know, 6 months old or a year old. Right. And it's because, you know, it's an ECM blower motor and it, you know, has high static pressures or something. Right. So it's difficult to sell the customer that you need a blower motor. And then we need to further diagnose to find out what killed the blower motor. The cost to replace the blower motor is going to be, you know, insert number here, $800, but we don't know how much time it's going to take after. Like that's how I would have to approach a residential call with a bad blower motor for a customer I've never worked on. First, we got to change the motor. Then I can evaluate the rest of the system. There might be more money. Then we find out, oh my gosh, the reason why the motor went bad is because you have an undersized return or you have collapsed ductwork in the attic. Now, yes, those problems need to be solved, but the customer, they've been kind of groomed into the idea that, well, how much is it going to cost to have a service call? Okay. And they think that service call is going to fix everything, you know, or I think I have a bad capacitor. How much does a capacitor cost? Well, it'll be this much, but is that all that's wrong with the system? You know? And so it's that whole idea of everybody wanting to know the price of something before they have you come out. And I think that's what's hurting the residential side is that the customers have lost interest in the idea that there's not just an easy cookie cutter price to fix your air conditioner, but there's an easy cookie cutter price with financing to replace it all. So they tend to be like, well, it is pretty old, and maybe I should just replace it. And I mean, the payment's really low, even though you're paying off the air conditioner 3 times by the time you make all those payments. But anyways, that's a whole nother conversation to have. All right. Let me read what we got going on in here. Where can you learn more about troubleshooting inverter side discharge heat pump units? I mean, there's a lot of Facebook groups out there. What I would highly suggest is for fundamental stuff, Craig Migliaccio with AC Service Tech. He has a lot of content online, and he's doing training classes online. He probably gives some, I don't know for a fact, but I know that Craig does some good stuff. So he probably gives some good entry-level inverter diagnostics and stuff like that. So definitely look at Craig's content on YouTube. I know that he's partnered with HVAC School, which has a lot of other content that's free. And he's also partnered with, I believe he's using some of Ty Branneman's videos. So Craig has lots of great information, and he has lots of great books too. This one right here, Refrigeration, Charging, and Service Procedures for Air Conditioning. That's Craig Migliaccio's book. That's another one. He's got lots of great information too for the air conditioning side and for like inverters for mini splits and heat pumps and stuff. Craig's got some good information, so look into that. But manufacturer's information is where you're going to find a lot of great valuable information, because each manufacturer has a different way that their equipment works. So if you want to know about Carrier Infinity systems, you're going to need to go onto the Carrier portal and take the Infinity classes. Same thing with the Train inverter systems and the York inverter and the Bosch. You're going to have to go to the OEM training or go online and find their training materials out there. So, all right. Read through the chat, seeing what I'm missing. Okay, cool. Couple more things I want to cover. We already covered that. I talked about that. Are there test instruments? This came from a YouTube comment. Are there test instruments that can identify unknown refrigerants in the field? That's a great question. So yes, there is, but are they practical to own? No, they're not. But there is portable analyzers that you can hook up to a system, and with pretty good confidence, it's going to tell you what refrigerant is in that system, or it'll tell you the different refrigerants that it's picking up, and it'll help you to track down what kind of refrigerant is in that system, because that is a problem, especially in the commercial side, with the new drop-in refrigerants and everything. Is do you know that it's truly R22 in that R22 system, or is there other stuff mixed in there too? So yeah, if you have an analyzer that could get on the system, but they are way too expensive for a normal service tech to own and have them in their vans on a regular basis. But there is tools out there to do this. Let's see. Freon says he's a refrigerant analyzer. Yeah, I can smell the refrigerant vapor. Okay, I can tell that that's mineral oil, so that's going to guide me in a direction. And then from there, I'm going to go look at the TXV. What kind of a power head's on it? It's an R12 power head. Okay, so that varies it down. More than likely, it should be some variant of R12. It has mineral oil. So from that point, you're not going to know if it's 409 or MP39 or Hot Shot. Who knows? Hot Shot shouldn't be in a mineral oil system though. But anyways, that's the whole thing. All right. Okay. Let me see what else we got going on in my questions right here. Why replace the motor? Okay, so I had a video a while back that had a shredded fan blade. The fan blade broke off, and it was lucky it didn't jam inside the condenser. It was stuck in the bottom of the unit. It was a newer motor, and I got so many questions from people saying, why did I change that motor if it just had a broken fan blade? It's not worth it to me to put a fan blade and then have the customer call me back out because the bearings were damaged in the motor. Also, when you have a broken fan blade, how long did that motor run with a broken fan blade? And if it ran with half a blade missing before it finally blew a fuse, how long did it run? Did it damage the bearings in the motor? The cost of a motor is so cheap these days for most equipment. Now, if it's a $10,000 motor, we might consider putting a new blade on it and going from there. But when you're talking about a $300 motor, $400 motor, it's not worth a service call for the customer to see if it works, right? So I'm usually, if you have a broken blade, just going to change a motor, or vice versa. If I'm changing a motor, depending on how old the blade is, I'm probably just going to change the blade, because when's that blade going to just self-destruct and grenade? I don't know. So why not change the blade with the motor? Okay. Let's see. You wish you had a refrigerant analyzer for when you had a 410A system with subcooling on the discharge line. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. All right. What's the oldest unit I've ever seen? I don't know about oldest unit I've ever seen. I've worked on a lot of old equipment. The oldest equipment that I ever removed and uninstalled was a York split system at a now closed Joe's Crab Shack in Long Beach. And I believe the Carrier split system that I pulled out of there had a semi-hermetic 06D Carlisle compressor in it. And the compressor was downstairs in the air handler, and it had just a remote condenser on the roof. I believe that was a 1965, 1964 unit that I took out. We had to cut that unit into pieces to get it out of the building. And then we installed a York unit that probably isn't even there anymore. Probably didn't even last half as long as the 1960s unit lasted. Guaranteed it didn't last that long. But yeah, that's the oldest one that I've ever uninstalled, was a 60s Carrier. But I mean, I've probably seen units in the 60s range ish, somewhere in there. Yeah. So, all right, let's get to a couple more things on here real quick. Reading through the chat. How'd I start my HVACR career? So I'm second generation. My dad. So first, for people that are just coming in here, because there's some people just popping in on Instagram or YouTube, my name's Chris. I'm just an HVACR service tech that makes these videos on YouTube. And I do these live streams just to answer questions. So the question is, how'd I start my HVACR career? I'm second generation. I grew up working with my dad, sitting on his bucket, holding his flashlight. Yes, I was a 6-year-old, 5-year-old holding a 3-cell mag light flashlight that has 3D batteries in it. And I can remember, you know, sitting on his bucket while he was in a restaurant holding it. This was before LED or anything like that. And I can remember him yelling at me, "God damn it, Christopher, I'm working over here," because I got distracted with the flashlight and started looking somewhere else while he's working in a dark box and he was hoping I'd hold the flashlight for him. So yeah, I grew up working for my dad, officially came to work for him in April of 2002. We've since partnered together. We run the business together. And yeah, that's my story. I've made a lot of mistakes. I broke a lot of stuff. And I started making these YouTube videos simply as a training aid for my own employees, because we made a lot of mistakes. We lost a few employees and we had to hire a bunch of experienced people, but they weren't experienced in the way that we do things. So that's what started this YouTube channel, was just me making videos for the employees. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. All right. So, I already answered that question. All right. So have I ever thought about using meta glasses to record my videos? That's probably one of the more common questions that I get, is why don't I use meta glasses to record my videos? Oh my gosh, I got a set of meta glasses right here that I will actually wear and use when I'm on the roof. Now, these are generation 1. I have the generation 2 ones, but I don't have the display ones that like you can see crap in. I don't have those. I just use them for cameras. But why don't I use these meta glasses more? Because they only record in vertical. And for the longest time, they had minimum recording times, but the recording time has gotten a lot better. I think you can do up to 2+ minutes now, maybe even longer, but they still record in a vertical format. So they're only good for Instagram and TikTok. YouTube, shorts, you can use them for that, but you can't use them for long form horizontal content. So I'm waiting for them to come out with long form horizontal content, but they do work really good for a Bluetooth when you're working on a job site, because you can still hear everything around you. If you get a phone call or something like that, they work really nice. So let's see what else going on inside this chat. What am I missing? Yep, that's it right there. Okay, cool. Freon, you're killing me right now. On a condenser for walk-in coolers and freezers, does the safety loop go on the line set or the load side of the contactor? What do you mean by safety loop? Line side or load side of the contactor? You mean like extra wire? I put, if I can, extra wire on the load side and the line side, just in case you get wires that burn, if that's what you're talking about. I don't know what you mean by safety loop. I don't know that I've ever heard the term safety loop on a contactor. I can only assume that you mean extra wires just in case. Like, so when I'm running wires to a contactor from a disconnect, I might do like a service loop or something. So that way, if wires ever burn, I have extra wires to grab. That I will do. But is that what you mean by safety loop? Question mark? Service loop? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe service loop. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that. Give me some context and I'll try to auxiliary contact. Yeah, there's so many different things this could be. Everybody in the chat's guessing right now. So give us some more context. Maybe we can answer some more in the chat. So put it down in there. Low pressure switch, high pressure switch, discharge line temp. On a condenser for a walk-in cooler and services, does the safety loop go on the line side or load side of the contactor? So you're talking about the low pressure switch, the high pressure switch, and the discharge line temperature switch. Those should be on the load side of your contactor. A lot of the times, those will be the low voltage circuit, if there is a low voltage circuit. But on a walk-in cooler or freezer, yeah, it would be on the load side of the contactor because, I mean, well, it depends, actually. Actually, no. What do you mean by load? No. When I said load, I don't think I said that correctly. I was thinking something differently. So you're going to take high voltage off the line side. You're going to run it through the safety switches. Then it's going to go through some sort of a control. Then it's going to go to the contactor itself. So it would be on the line side, actually, if that's what you're asking. I don't know what I was thinking on the load side. Yeah, no, definitely not on the load side because you want it to disconnect the contactor. So, yeah, it breaks the coil voltage. That's right. But it's typically going to take line voltage, run it through something, then break that line voltage, which in essence is essentially going to go back to the coil. But you got to be careful saying line voltage because depending on what you're working on, it might not be high voltage. Some circuits, it might be a 24 volt circuit, even on a walk-in cooler. So it could be low voltage. All right. All right, cool. Well, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. What am I missing? Has RDS boards been giving me a hard time prior install? So the RDS boards are the leak detector boards on equipment. So far, cross my fingers, I've probably got about 8 to 10 A2L package units out there, and I cross my fingers have not had any issues with the RDS boards or the leak detection boards. I have not installed any A2L refrigeration equipment. I will be doing some very, very soon, but I have yet to have any problems with the RDS boards or the leak detection systems. So do I ever travel east on vacation, East Coast? What is vacation? I don't know what vacation is. For the first time in many, many years, I went on what you would call a vacation with my family to Orlando. We went to the whole Universal experience and whatever. But as far as my traveling goes, for the most part, my traveling is typically going to be based around the conferences, the HVACR conferences that I go to. So the AHR conference is one that I typically go to every year. This year, it's going to be in Las Vegas. For everybody that's attending, I'm going to be there. We're going to be doing a hike at Red Rock Canyon on Sunday morning. If anybody's interested, shoot me a DM or something. And then we'll be doing the AHR Expo Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all that stuff. I'll be at the Tactical Awards on Sunday. I decided to go and I got tickets, so I'll be at that too, my wife and I. So if you're going to be going to AHR, hope to see you there. Make sure you message me and we'll figure something out. Also, let's see, but AHR Expo bounces, used to go to Atlanta, but they canceled Atlanta this year. So it's going to go Chicago next, or it's going to do Chicago 2 times and then, Orlando again. So yeah, they're skipping Atlanta for this next one. And they're just going to do Vegas, Chicago. Who on earth decided to do Chicago 2 times in the winter? Chicago only needs to be done in the winter every couple of years because that's miserable. But anyways, going off on a tangent with that one. Can we see my tool bag? You're a first-year apprentice. You like to be prepared. Fancy Selvin, do me a favor, shoot me an email or a DM on Instagram, whatever, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Remind me to do something with the tools. I could probably send you a video. I've got a YouTube video of my tool bag. I guarantee it hasn't really changed much since I made the video like 3 years ago. I still have the same stuff in my tool bag. So shoot me an email. I can send you a link or something to a tool bag review or something like that. Let's see. Jason says he's yet to see those mitigation boards. All the A2L equipment you've worked on is chillers. They don't need one. Yeah. Oh, got to take vacations. Got to take care of my mentals. Burnout is real. Trust me, I know that burnout is real. I'm in the midst of a complete mental breakdown. I'm so burnt out on life and everything. So I'm spiraling the drain right now. My Chat GPT cut me off because Chat GPT is my therapist. I talk to it and it cut me off and said I have to pay $200 a month now to keep talking to Chat GPT because I talk to it way too much. So yeah. They skipped Atlanta, Chicago twice. Yeah, they're not doing Atlanta for some reason. They're skipping it completely and they're doing Chicago twice. Yeah. Yeah, it's silly. So yeah, we don't know what cold is here, nasty. I mean, it's wintertime and it's 50 degrees outside and we don't know what to do out here in SoCal. Right on, Anthony Cook. I really appreciate that you like the videos, my friend. All right, well, it is time for me to wrap this up. I'm going to cue up the outro music. I really appreciate y'all. Anybody that has questions that I missed, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I'm going to cue up the outro music, and if all goes well and I can manage to figure this out, I'll bring in the pups here in just a few minutes during the outro music. So let's go ahead and if I hit this right here, how do I do this? I don't know how this works. No. Oh, dude, don't do that. I don't know what that button does. What if I put it there? Nope. I'm pushing buttons and I have no idea what any of this stuff does right now. So if I do that, no, I don't think that's right. Yeah, I'm just going to cue it up. Maybe I can come back. Maybe I can't. We'll hit the outro. And the outro video. Oh, wait, no, there's one more way I can do this. Hold on. Let me try one more thing. Media assets. There we go. Let's do that. Well, let me play that. No. Yeah. What about this one? And did I do it right? I think I might have done it right. I think the audio's back. See, I might have figured this out. Is it done? I think I'm here. I think I figured this out. Stay out of the pups. Come here, buddy. Come here. Oh. It's my little Australian Shepherd right here. Oh, hi. Oh. All right. This is my Lukey boy. Here. Oh. Look at this guy. Oh. Pups always like to come in and say hi. So, all right. I'm going to put the real music in there and hope to catch you guys on the next one. This is the real outro. Like I said, shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com if I missed anything, and hope to catch you on the next